levy, the solid waste levy imposed by the government. Pay the levy, it's a token fee to keep our country decent. $25 a month you say give you stress, but that is nothing to clean up we mess. Be a good citizen of our Queen City, go water department and pay the levy. Pay the levy, salute all them men who clean up our garbage. Pay the levy, they sacrifice their time to clean up where we live. You say you're only paying water in water bill, but you might just end up like Jack and Jill. The first $25 go to the levy, and you don't realize you owe for the water still.
Good evening, viewers, and welcome to another edition of SWEEP, the Solid Waste Environmental and Education Program hosted by the Nevis Solid Waste Management Authority. I am Curtis Morton. This weekly program is hosted in collaboration with Nevis Television. This week we are going to go deep into the archives. The year is 1989. Solid waste management was done then by the Public Health Department, and we had one main garbage truck, as we called it. The popular driver was Mr. Claxton, aka Hop-a-long. Let us go down memory lane. Refuse disposal has been of great concern and importance for as long as men have inhabited the earth. And Nevis is no exception. Refuse disposal has been a problem over the past years in Nevis, and we are very concerned about what is going on, and hence the reason for the production of this video. Now, we are hoping by means of this video to be able to educate the public, the general public at large, about the problem, and we are hoping that by educating them, they will be able to give the health department assistance in terms of correcting this problem. If you notice the sound of the word refuse, it is spelled just the same as you spell refuse, and indeed refuse is what we refuse. There are certain aspects of refuse which are categorized differently. For instance, we have what is known as garbage. And garbage in its most common sense would be strictly what we call kitchen waste. Any resulting waste from the kitchen in the terms of preparation of food, etc., you get what we call garbage. And then there's a type of kitchen waste which is categorized as swill. Now, this is food or waste food that is fed to animals, example, pigs. And this is the kind of garbage that is edible by animals. It is called swill. Now, we also have the term rubbish. And some people again refer to garbage or refuse as rubbish. But rubbish is categorized as the solid waste that cannot be decomposed, and it can be combustible, meaning that it can be burnt, or as well it cannot be burnt. And you're talking about such material as cardboard, tins, paper, yard clippings, wood, glass, bedding, crockery and metals, etc. Also, we refer to ashes. Now, ashes is strictly the remains from the burning of wood and coal, etc. And then refuse takes in all of these terms. And garbage is a part of it, rubbish is a part of it. There are three very important aspects of refuse disposal. The first one is storage. Now this is the first part because you generate the waste on your premises, and it is very crucial in terms of how you store it before it is taken away from your premises. Then the collection is done whether privately or by government public service, and that is done when the drum is picked up by the roadside and emptied into the truck. And then probably the most crucial aspect of refuse disposal is the final disposal of the waste. What happens after the truck goes away with it?
Then you report me to the authority. Say I stay long to come. And then you tell them you're having problem. Say I mash up your job. And then the truck breaks down.
This here in the background is the refuse disposal site at Low Ground Estate, which takes care of most of the refuse coming from about half to 2/3 of the island of Nevis. Ideally, this site had to be put here because the site which was next door became filled with refuse, and so we had to move to this location. Under ideal conditions, the site should be fenced so that the lighter stuff would not be blown away, and we would be able to exercise much greater control over the disposal which takes place here. Vehicles, when they enter, would be directed by one of the workers on the site, and they would be directed to place the refuse at a particular spot. If you look at the background here, you would see how some of the refuse is dumped. The trucks come to a particular point and make their dump. The stuff is tipped, and the workers on the site do the clearing, and the stuff which is combustible is put in one spot, followed by that which is just moist, which dries out slowly afterwards, and then that is put on the spot where the combustible stuff is and burnt. From time to time, various items such as metal, iron, and waste matter from construction sites, these also could be used for cover material and maintenance of the dump site. Okay. Sometimes building materials are also deposited here, along with, well, just about every different type of item, so that the workers on the site have a very difficult task in sorting material from time to time and trying to maintain the site as far as possible. I should also add that if the fencing was properly erected, it would be able to deter persons from coming into the site after working hours and disposing of it in an indiscriminate manner.
Now, as a means of educating the general public in Nevis as to our problem in terms of refuse disposal, the health inspectors on a very regular basis do have lecture sessions with groups, schools, etc. throughout the island. And here at the Gingerland Health Center, I spoke to the Diabetics Association on the topic refuse disposal, and they were a very enthused group, and their response was very lively. And there was one particular lady who quoted an instance where she found rat harborage and breeding within a junk room that she had, and she realized that she shouldn't be having a junk room at her home as such.
As a matter of fact, why you should store garbage properly at home too is because the more garbage you have at home and the worse they are stored, you're providing harborage for rats and so forth, and you're providing food for them. Yes. Now, as much as people decide that they can't get rid of rats, you could lessen rats by keeping the place tidy
by keeping your refuse covered and so forth. Because when they can't find food, it's just like anybody else. You can't find food here like the place again. Right? But now it's a fine thing to make nests with, and you go find food, and you see rats especially. Right? I'm stressing on rats. Rats are very, very dangerous. Let me just give you a little hint as to rats. Rats, you know that a lady when she gets pregnant, she goes for 9 months, right? And sometimes she produces 1, sometimes she produces 2. In Nevis, if you produce 2, that's a big thing. If you produce 3, man, the whole newspaper and so forth from States come down. If you get 5 like some people in China, man, I can imagine Nevis got to stop for a week. You understand? But rats now only go 21 days. Right? And when they produce it, producing a litter. Right? So after about 21 days, you're looking for nearly 10 little rats coming up.
Not cutting you off because I had an old suitcase and I hung it up in the bathroom, the old bathroom I had there. You couldn't zip around. And one morning I went in there to clean out. And when I cleaned it out, I see like a string hanging down out of it. So I make like put my hand in it, and something, a spirit come to me and say, don't put your hand in it. And I didn't put my hand in it. I went back for my day gun, because I never do without it. And I said, well, if I take it down, I will see what in it. And I knock it so before I take it down. And it was a big rat run out of it. And I take it down now. And when I take a long stick, and I turn it up. And you know how much it had in there? 6.
You see what I mean?
Now let them 6 being
See
broke.
what I mean? Exactly. When you ask the data about it,
6.
and I'm talking about just about 21 days. What we call the gestation period. The period that you carry the young one before you born.
I'm going to turn it later up and I say to Jesus, Jesus, I'm sorry, pardon me, but I have to kill you.
Here we are at camps, and at this time we are focusing on the refuse disposal system in Nevis. We know that we are having many problems with the refuse disposal system, but the general public at large don't know what's going on. And this afternoon we are speaking with some of the loaders and the chauffeur of the truck piece 1062, which you would have seen around, and it's marked "Keep Our Island Clean" on the outside, and we are hoping that when this film is finished, that Nevisians on the whole will help to keep Nevis clean. At this time we are talking to Prentice, one of the loaders on the truck. His nickname or moniker is Banner. Banner, how long have you been working on the refuse disposal?
I've been about 5 years now.
About 5 years. Is this a kind of job that you enjoy?
Well, right from the time I'm working, you know, but necessary, but a little until some right. Just just do it for
For the money.
Keep my body fit,
Keep body fit. What about the fact that you're keeping Nevis clean? That helps to make you feel proud.
Well, the reason why I keep Nevis clean because I want to see the city clean.
Okay, fine. And what kind of problems you all have out here when you are working? Tell me some of the problems.
We have a lot of problems. We need clothes. We need peace.
Mask.
And we need other things.
What about the kind of stuff that the people put in the drums and so? I hear a lot of things.
Sometimes they put in stones, big irons, mechanic put in walls, many things where we can live up at the same time.
Okay. Any other problems that you'd like to tell us about?
Well, my workers, we talk about it and we say to the boss is the driver, and he go and tell the fellows them, with that. So.
And do you think that when you started 5 years ago, that things are going better now, 5 years later?
Well, when I started...
It's worse.
When I started 5 years ago, things was worse, but what happened? I believe at the same time, that's right, in developer at the same time, it's come back the 5 years ago, but what happened? Not because we get a little more change than what we used to get and the 5 years ago. That kind of we supposed to get a little more.
More change. So you think that the money is still a bit slow?
Yeah, because we got to hear a lot of things. Right now we got some drunks in here, right?
And the kind of scent and so forth.
If Mr. Tribunal start to spit and absnet, Mr. Clark and the chauffeur and all, go right in the chauffeur seat. If you just don't copy it,
Okay. All right, thanks a lot, Banner, for speaking with us, and we're going to speak to the boss now, Mr. Claxton. At this time, we are going to talk to the man who Banner referred to as the boss, and this is Mr. Neville Hop-a-long Claxton. Now, he has been in the service for many a year, and he has done a lot of work for Nevis in terms of the refuse disposal system. Now, Neville, we are very happy that we could speak to you this afternoon, and we really would like to know, how long have you been working in with the health department?
Well, I really do not remember how long since I'm here, but I'm here for a couple of years well now.
And in terms of the years when you started until now, have you seen an improvement in the service?
Well, I have seen a lot of improvement in the service for more than one reason. Because sometimes now that we taking shift, work in different parts of the country, we're trying to see if we could get that, you know, get everything come clean and so forth. But one problem that we have that we do not have sufficient garbage truck in the island, and more stuff is going out. And of course, the workmen that I work here with, even though that they try their best, sometimes the officers, they might feel like they could do a little more, but they still can't do any more because of the amount of garbage that is putting out now by people. And some of the people, they still do not know what is garbage, because some of the people, they fill up the drum with dirt, stones, iron, especially some of the mechanical places where we go, we are supposed to be, should be able to dump their own stuff. They putting them down, and the loaders, them have a lot of that. Next, sometimes when we even go to some of the places, them are kind of dead, stink animals and so forth inside of the garbage drum. Sometimes people just have a little bit of stuff on top and more dirt and all kind of things inside here. So that is some of the problem that the men them that have to be, the loaders rather, have to face. And even me sometimes in here, the scent that come from back behind here just affect me, because none of us has masks.
Okay. Well, let us get a little explanation in terms of the system, right? The truck has one chauffeur and a set of loaders, right?
Yes.
Now the function of the loaders is to collect the stuff and place it inside of the truck. What do you do as chauffeur? Just drive?
Well, sometimes if I'm in a good mood, I come out and I help them. Sometimes I just, well, my most work is to do is the driving and see everything goes well.
Right. So you are the overall supervisor?
When I'm out with a gang.
Yeah, overall supervisor. And in terms of the relationship with you and the loaders, how you and the loaders get along and all that, they too give you horrors?
Well, at times it does. Because, yes, at times it does. And well, the reason for me to use that word is because sometimes some of them might come having their drinks, which I don't vex with them because I was once a drinker like them. And it's one thing that I would advise them and others to keep away from liquor as much as possible, because I find that when I used to drink it, it ain't no good for me. It wasn't doing me any good. So for the time being, I rest it down. Now, I am not saying this thing and telling anybody that I stop drink, but I'm asking the Lord to keep me away from it. And I wish that they could do the same thing too.
Also, right, in terms of the drums, do you believe that we have enough drums? Do you believe that the government should really go into the garbage bag system that they're planning? I think they have an idea of putting garbage bags throughout the entire island. Do you think we should try and get more drums deal with garbage bags?
Well, I think that the garbage bags will be only waste of time, because it will be more work for us, because the dogs then will break up the bags them, and I feel like the drums then will be more better.
Can you give us an idea as to what the problem is with getting the drums at this time?
Well, I really don't have any idea what is the problem concerning the drums then, because that part they're supposed to leave to the authorities and them to try and get them. But I don't know what is the problem really, so I can't make no decision on that.
Can you just finally give us a little idea as to what a normal work day would be like when you start, and what happens during the work day, and about what time you finish?
Well, sometimes we finish at an early hour. Depends on how we make the stuff on the road. Sometimes we run late. So I really don't have much to say about that part.
What about, you remember one time you all used to work in the nights? And nowadays I notice you all work in the day. Why did you work at nights and why do you revert to the daytime now?
Well, some still prefer to be working at night, but some decide that sometimes the same time that we're supposed to turn out to work, at some of them say the same time they just get it in to sleep, to rest. So they prefer to come back now in the afternoon.
And why was it more convenient for you to take up garbage in the night?
Well, on the behalf of the traffic. When I work in the night, we don't have no traffic to disturb us. So when we work in the day, we have to be moving here and there, and some of the drivers on them is not courteous. Some of them, if you just ask them to move the vehicle, they start with this and that.
Okay, thank you very much, Neville, and I sincerely hope that by the time we are through with this video, that when the public understands the kind of horrors that you get on the truck, that they will cooperate a little more and the system will work much better in Nevis. Householders in general are not too concerned about what happens to their garbage after they have finished with it at home and dispose of it by their gates. But in the Gingerland area, this is where it all ends. The Indian Castle Disposal Site, or dump site as it is commonly known. Now this site is located at the bottom of Hanley's Road, and this area takes care of most, if not all, of the garbage or refuse disposed of in the Gingerland area, and sometimes to some extent extends as far as Charlestown and in emergency cases Cotton Ground and other out-district areas. Now this site is managed directly by one Mr. Arthur James, and at this time we are speaking with Mr. Arthur James, who is the caretaker, so to speak, of the Indian Castle Disposal Site. Now Mr. James,
yeah.
How do you enjoy your work here at the disposal site?
Well, good.
You enjoy it good?
Yeah.
Now, the average work day, what do you do in a day's work?
Well, they come on in time, shovel up stuff on them, and then after I shovel them, I light them. And when I start, I move off. Because I don't get fill up in the year, and before they catch me, I turn off.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are your working hours normally?
That's from 7 to 11.
From 7 to 11?
Yeah.
Tell me some of the tools that you use down here. What kind of tools, equipment and clothes and so forth you have down here?
Well, I got a shovel, and a park, and a rake, and a pair of shoes, and a pair of gloves.
What about when rain falls?
I got a cloak.
Oh, you have a cloak as well?
But don't have to mark it, sometimes I mark it. After I do fear. I don't deal with it.
But you know, sometimes it looks fair and then the rain comes, right? Really. So sometimes you get wet down here.
Yeah.
I guess that's a hazard of the job. Yeah. You mentioned about these cans flying up and so forth in the air. Yeah. Have you ever been struck by any of them?
Well, one time after light, I've been about 2 hours, and when I fly up, and it kicked me. On
your shoulder?
On my shoulder. So therefore I don't stop after light. I move off on them. I don't know how far them out. So after I go in the air, I don't know beside them I drop. So therefore I leave off, and I go stand up.
Actually, when it comes to aerosols, these flammable explosive cans, they are not really supposed to be disposed of with the regular garbage or refuse. They are supposed to be buried. The household is supposed to bury them, but yeah. I guess it's because of ignorance mostly. Most of this stuff ends up here at this site, and it helps to make it even more dangerous for the worker. And if you notice, it's already dangerous because this is an open dump. It is not a landfill where the stuff is covered regularly. It's an open dump site, and the problem with open dumps is that all of the combustible stuff, or the stuff that can be burnt, will be disposed of, but the cans and bottles, etc., will remain for years. And you're talking about cans with jagged edges. You're talking about glass bottles that can cut. You're talking about dangerous equipment, generally speaking, within this whole confusion of stuff here. And despite the fact that he does a lot of burning, a lot of this stuff will remain and will not disintegrate for years and years and years to come. As a matter of fact, why this site is looking so unsightly, even though an open dump is never really sightly, it's looking even more unsightly because it is overdue at this time for compaction by a bulldozer. Now, this has been asked for some months now, but because of problems in terms of moving the bulldozer, we have not yet been granted that request, and we are still waiting and hoping that eventually the bulldozer will come. What the bulldozer will do when it comes is to push back all of this stuff, including all of the old cars on the site, and compact them and make new space all over again for dumping to start all over again. It will be a virtually clean site, and the stuff will be pushed right back and compacted as much as possible. And to some extent, some covering will be done as well. What about these creatures? They don't affect you?
Eh?
These creatures, they don't affect you?
I'm on my side, but I just drive them. You know?
What about this stuff?
Well, this stuff I then the root and stuff I pull up and I turn up. Maybe it's my man like them.
They root them up?
They root them up and I got to go back again and
okay.
Yeah.
So, Arthur, we are very thankful for the work that you're doing, and I do sincerely hope that some of the viewers will realize the kind of work that you are engaged in, the kind of hardship that sometimes they give you in terms of the type of refuse they place in the containers and the way that it is disposed of.
You garbage man, stop treating me like dirt. Give me my fullest worth. Stop making me feel hurt. You garbage man.
Now, the truckman's day, or the job of the scavenger, as they are called, is not a very easy one. And an average day in itself is a lot of trouble, a lot of horrors, a lot of problems. Now, this is not a normal day. This is a pretty irregular day in that the truck is stuck on the dump site. And this happens once in a, what we call colloquially, a blue moon. You can see some of the problems that the men are having. It actually burst the rope. It actually kept skidding further into the loose dirt and digging out a hole. And they really had a lot of trouble before the truck was set free. We are looking at the courthouse yard. Now, the courthouse is a very important building right in the heart of Charlestown. And just at the back of the courthouse, which houses the library right on its top, is this illicit dump site. Now, the peculiar feature about this is that here is a notice put up by the health department that there should be no dumping of refuse in this area. And yet still, people came with their stuff, discarded material, and dumped them right in front of the sign. The previous shot showed the illicit dumping site at the courthouse yard, and now we are viewing the said site cleared by the health department. This is another illicit dump site, and again it's very close to a very important building in Nevis. This is just at the back of the new and very popular Vaughan radio station. Now, some person or persons have made it a habit of dumping right here close to the sea, and we are now seeing the result of that. We cannot identify the persons, but we are sincerely hoping that this video outreach can inform persons that these are illicit dumping areas and that they should try their utmost to dump at the dump site, which is just a couple feet away or a couple 100 yards going in the other direction, and to refrain from dumping along the seaside as we see it here. Now, that reminds me that one of the things that can happen as a result of such dumping is the pollution of the sea. Because you're talking about our fishes, you're talking about turtles, you're talking about sea life in general, you're talking about people sea bathing, and you dump in these areas, it results in the fact that it ends in the sea. And you're talking about current pulling these stuff downstream and pulling them out further out to sea, etc. And you're talking about fishes being poisoned by material with lead, and you're talking about old cars with oil getting into the sea. lead and other metal getting into the sea. You're talking about plastics. That's one of the problems we have with turtles digesting or trying to digest the plastics and being stifled, being strangled by the plastics. And you're talking about even the sea bathing areas becoming polluted for persons who are bathing further downstream. You're talking about destruction of sea life, fishes, turtles, and other sea life. You're talking about the sea having more bacteria than it should have in terms of people sea bathing and fishes and other creatures which exist within the sea. And you're talking about the destruction of corals. You're talking about the beautiful gardens beneath the waters being destroyed because of this stuff being dumped within the sea. And so it's a very clear message that we have to get to the general public, and that is they have to take care. Take care, know the dangers, and dispose of their stuff properly so that we can help ourselves, help the government, help to keep Nevis clean.
I am a nobody. I hope you understand. Wake up daily to clean my country, yet still you keep me down, right to the ground. I'm your garbage man. Me pick up you jumper. Flies dipping on my head. Sad enough to knock me down. Whoa, whoa, you garbage man. Then you report me to the authority. Say I stay long to come. And then you tell them you're having problem. Say I mash up your job. And then the job break down. I am your garbage man. Me pick up you jumper. Flies dipping on my head. Sad enough to knock me down. Yeah, yeah, you garbage man. Stop treating me like dirt. Give me my fullest worth. Stop making me feel hurt. Yeah, yeah, you garbage man. Remember I'm human. Give me recognition. I'm serving my country proud. Yeah, yeah, you garbage man.
Thanks for viewing, and I do hope you enjoyed that walk down memory lane. I am Curtis Morton, wishing you a great evening and inviting you to join us next week for another edition of Sweep.
Pay the levy, the solid waste levy imposed by the government. Pay the levy, it's a token fee to keep our country decent. $25 a month you say give you stress, but that is nothing to clean up we mess. Be a good citizen of our Queen City, go water department and pay the levy. Salute all them men who clean up our garbage. Pay the levy, they sacrifice their time to clean up where we live. You say you're only paying water in water bill, but you might just end up like Jack and Jill. The first $25 go to the levy, and you don't realize you owe for the water still.